Everybody, I'm Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, and everybody's got a price for lazy booking. Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to Lazy Booking. Go, it's true. It's damn true. Ho! Hey, folks, I'm WWE Hall of Famer Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and if you want to know what's going on in wrestling, check out Lazy Bookings. Ho!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new Lazy Booking right here on A2DRadio.com, live in the Real Talk Studios from Mount Ephraim, New Jersey, brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, your certified public accountants located at 301 Oxford Valley Road in Yardley, PA. Give them a call at 215-369-3300. Tax season is here, so be ready, be prepared, and call Gibson Mayer.
I missed those paper slams, Matty. It's been a long time, bud.
Yes, it has.
Guys, welcome back to Lazy Booking. We are back after about a month hiatus. And a little longer for Matty, who's back. He missed about a month before then. It's been a couple months for Matty.
I know. I missed Wrestle Kingdom reviews and now Rumble. Yeah, so
welcome back, brother. We got Mikey over here. We have the D.
No.
We have the D team. Never fails.
No.
The diabetic team right here.
If you would have gone away forever, this could have been my show.
Yeah.
But no! You had to come back from the dead like the fucking Undertaker or something.
He thought he was buried alive.
Buried alive!
And now he's back as, the American badass, Matty Sensuti over here.
I love it.
The bounty you put out on me, Mike, it
Welcome.
did not work.
Welcome, brother.
It was like the Austin, like taking Austin out in the parking lot with the car. And
at the Rumble where everybody was going to try and
It was me! I did it for The Rock.
Guys, listen, good time to come back. The WrestleMania, Road to WrestleMania has now kicked off. We're recapping Royal Rumble, an eventful Raw and Smackdown. We're gonna talk with the hot tag, all the hot of things that are going on in wrestling right now, and we're also gonna pull out a thing or two from the Kayfabe Vault.
Should we actually reveal to the audience one of the industry secrets on Hot Tag too?
If you would like to, go for it.
The turn of the hand.
The turn of the hand.
The turn of the hand. The sleight of hand.
Yes. Man, we got a lot to cover, guys. A very eventful Royal Rumble this week.
Very eventful month, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. So we took this break. Typically, it's a slow time in the wrestling industry, and literally a week after we had agreed to take this break, man, I mean, shit really, really took off. So, our Scanzano Sports poll question this week, biggest victory of Royal Rumble weekend. Is it Becky Lynch? Is it Seth Rollins, Johnny Gargano, or Asuka?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, so join us on Instagram, Periscope, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, the website, wherever you want to comment. We're looking forward to talking to the family. It has been too long since we have had a conversation.
What are those choices again?
Run
it down one more time.
Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins, Johnny Gargano, or Asuka.
Interesting.
And there could be other ones as well. I mean, listen, you have Miz and Shane out there. I was trying to think of more, things that are going to carry on going forward. So there's going to be a lot of things I think that are going to be rolling out going forward. But listen, so Royal Rumble opens up. Becky Lynch versus Asuka. Was this not a clear sign that Becky Lynch was going to win the Royal Rumble?
Well, see, that's what kind of pissed me off is that her opening the show made the Women's Rumble, at least in my mind, 100% predictable.
Right. Go ahead, Matty.
Well, it did make it predictable, but I think that there's two kinds of predictable. There's the good predictable and the bad predictable.
Agreed.
In a way, I think the Men's Rumble is the latter half of the bad predictable because everybody knew it. Not that they have a problem with who won. They just knew well in advance. It's not like with the women's where a lot of people just automatically assumed it was going to be Charlotte. Then once they started to show those subtle signs, oh, no, maybe it'll be Becky, that's when the interest really revved up for the Women's Rumble.
See, I look at it more of, let's take a step back of the last handful of Rumbles that we've seen. And listen, I've been in two crowds, two of the most hostile, if not the most hostile crowds.
Both at Philly.
Well, one in Pittsburgh, one in Philly.
Okay. The other one in Pittsburgh.
When Batista won and when Roman won.
Right.
And the predictability of that, I think it was more of the unpredictable. It was weird because it was kind of in between. It was predictable but not predictable. Everybody thought for sure Daniel Bryan's going to win here in Pittsburgh. And they didn't get what the predictable ending would have been, so they wanted to burn the place down. Flash forward, Daniel Bryan's back. They expect Daniel Bryan's going to make it down to the end, possibly win the Royal Rumble, and then he gets thrown out early. They take the predictability out of it. Sometimes the predictable thing is the best thing for business, and I feel like this was the time that they had to do it. I didn't like that it was the opening match because I knew that far in advance. But then I also look at the Rumble match, and knowing that it was predictable, what was not predictable was how many NXT and young talents, NXT UK talents, were featured in this match, and I thought featured very prominently and well in this match, which I think counterbalanced the fact that we knew that Becky was going to end up winning this match in the end.
Okay, so let me ask you guys a question. Both Rumbles, men's and women's, out of all of the non-main roster players, who do you think showed best in each? Because I have a couple names in mind right out of the gate, and I think they may be the obvious ones, so I'll hold off. I know a certain someone who became a fan of a certain female wrestler during the Rumble, Mr. Bro.
Big fan.
Who's that?
Well, hold on.
Oh, you're good. We can hear you.
Can you hear us?
Oh,
Can you hear me?
Come on. We all know it's Mandy. We all know.
No, it's not
No,
Mandy.
I'm
no,
joking.
it is not Mandy.
No,
We're already big fans of Mandy.
big fan of Casey Catanzaro.
Yes.
Big fan.
Yes.
So cute.
And I will listen.
And the move to get back into the ring.
And I'm pretty sure that you guys know this already. I am a massive American Ninja Warrior fan. So I've watched Casey Catanzaro for years, and when I had heard that she was leaving to sign with WWE, I have read and tried to follow her progression. And I mean, listen, the athletic makeup is there. She's a gorgeous woman. She's so small.
She's tiny.
She is very tiny.
There's probably not a single ounce of fat on her. Everything is just muscle.
That's that American Ninja Warrior lifestyle in them.
So he sends me a text, and the text is literally 2 words. Casey Catanzaro, period.
Nice.
No explanation needed.
And I believe the end of that text exchange was the fact, I think the ending was, we didn't know who she was, but now we do.
Yeah.
Well, we knew who she was. The WWE universe did not.
Yeah, I think
exactly.
I think she's one of those that was kind of under the radar. If you're a fan of Ninja Warrior, you probably know who she is. Well, you would know who she is.
Well, if you follow
one of the most viral videos in the history of the show was based off of her.
And if you follow NXT on Twitter, she gets a lot of run, like on their weekend circuits.
Yep.
Like they are always retweeting her stuff from Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night shows. Like she's probably on the cusp of becoming really big on NXT TV.
Yeah, and it's weird too because like we said, like she's so small. It's almost like when you compare how Mysterio looks to the men, is almost how she looks to the women. And the athleticism is there, and again, I've read such good things about her and how quickly she's progressed. I'll be interested to hear when the time comes how she speaks, and that's a whole other monster in itself. But I agree. I thought she looked fantastic, and I thought that it was interesting that they chose her to have a couple of featured spots in that match, which again. That was the exciting thing. Men's and women's side, you saw so many young talents. They didn't go and dive into the, pull out the Booker T's and Jerry Lawler's getting up from the table and jumping in.
Literally, one legend? Jeff Jarrett, and that was it?
He was number 2.
Right, but I mean, he was out of both Rumbles. He was the only quote-unquote legend that they brought back.
Yeah, because there was none in the women's Rumble this year.
Yeah, and I was shocked. I thought for sure you might get at least Trish and Lita. So I was a little bit surprised by that, but it's
It was a pleasant surprise,
pleasantly
right?
surprised, yes.
So do you guys have a couple of names yet?
I mean, I thought Rhea Ripley looked really good.
She did.
That's actually where I was going.
Yeah,
Rhea
I was going
Ripley
to say
looked
Rhea
like a
Ripley
monster.
looked strong. She looked strong beforehand too, but it just continues her body of work of just how talented she is.
Yeah, and I'm curious what this is going to lead to in regards to is she going to be up sooner than later with her dropping the women's title in the UK, and now being featured in what I would consider a very pretty prominent spot in the Rumble.
Oh, and if you follow her on social media, she's getting a huge rub on social media from Mick Foley right now, too.
Yep.
So maybe there are very big plans in the near future for her.
Yeah, I agree. Men's, I mean, Johnny Gargano, clearly. You know, Johnny, and I didn't expect Gargano to be in the match.
Nor
and I
did
thought
I.
that was a pleasant spot. Aleister Black being in that match was a big surprise to me as well.
You're getting warmer. For me, it's Pete Dunne.
Pete Dunne.
I thought Pete Dunne had a great showing in that match.
Agreed. I think they have dollar signs all over Pete Dunne.
No question.
Pete Dunne has Hunter's fingerprints all over him. He's got that old school kind of, they call him, the bruiser, but he has it where he's that, he's going to sit and bend your fingers like the shit you used to see in like the 80s in the NWA and stuff. But then when he has to go in and he had those big spots and then have that big kind of spot fest in matches, he can do it all. There's no range for this guy.
No,
It's
you're
insane.
absolutely right.
Well, I mean, I believe the common or the comparison as far as the look is William Regal.
A more athletic William
Yeah.
Regal,
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
This age, William Regal.
And Regal's probably another guy who, you're right, I could see his fingerprints all over Pete Dunne as well.
I love the spot that they did in the Rumble, and they've probably done it 1,000 times, but the main roster audience had never seen it, where Pete Dunne, quote-unquote, dislocated Aleister Black's fingers.
Oh, yeah.
And Black just, got, the look on his face and just popped him back in and went right back to work.
Yeah.
I don't think the announcer sold it enough.
Yeah.
Because you could hear the crowd just go, oh. When he popped his fingers back in,
But
it was like.
What I liked about that was, too, is that Alistair followed through with it, where sometimes he'll do it in a match, but they won't ever snap their finger back into place to kind of give it that extra oomph. Alistair totally just all right, boom, and then he
Right.
snapped it back into place. Little things like that really make that move stand out.
Yeah.
Some of the family already chiming in. Jake Friel, what's up, boys? What's up, Jake?
What's up, Jake?
Andy Ritter from Jackson Ritz. Oh, my God, it's back. We're back, buddy. You know it. Competition's back on.
We're back and
Back on.
and in uniform.
We are, clearly.
Clearly.
Greg Malakovic. Oh, you guys are so cute. We are.
Well,
we do. We look like boyfriends. It's okay.
This was completely unplanned, by the way.
Jim Velasco says TakeOver was awesome, but I'm biased. TakeOver was phenomenal. I agree with him.
Well,
There's
Jim
no bias there.
Velasco was also backstage at TakeOver.
Well,
so,
yeah,
so he's clearly biased.
He has a little bit of a relationship with Johnny Gargano, but
Some stroke.
yeah, a little stroke. David Rosca says Becky Lynch is the man. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Rob Povia, the man. So happy for Becky. He says, see my YouTube comment, which I'm sure we'll get to in a few
will
minutes.
get to him as soon
Greg
as you're ready for him.
Malakovic says, I really enjoyed the Women's Rumble. I think it was the best match of the night. Daniel Bakley, Hansen is athletic as hell as a big guy. And then he says, I thought that Daniel Bryan versus Styles match was affected in the first half of the match by the long Women's Rumble, considering it was a great match.
I would agree with that. I think the crowd was a little bit dead for the first half of the match.
It's because, unfortunately, the structure of that card was really tough. You were going to get a dead title match somewhere in between that.
I would venture to have the opinion that I just don't think people really cared about it from the get-go.
And you may very well be correct.
I think that there's elements of the Daniel Bryan heel run that I see now that I do enjoy. I thought the new title belt was masterful.
Oh, it's hilarious.
It was brilliant.
The hippie title.
It was so good.
I-
And his promo on SmackDown was spectacular.
I have to say, though, one of the best lines that I have heard about that, I saw it on Twitter, and I don't know if they revealed it on Busted Open Radio or if it was just something that he tweeted. But Bully Ray said something about taking the belt and passing it to the right. He may not drop the belt, but he could pass it to the
Yes,
right.
he could, yeah.
And I'm like, that is hilarious.
Oh, it's good.
I love
Yeah,
it.
but I mean, I don't know that it's completely getting over the way that they want to, and I don't see how Eric Rowan's going to be the guy to get it over. I mean,
Who? Rowan.
Yeah. Oh, Rowan. Right.
He doesn't have a first name anymore.
I forgot we
like
dropped
that's
people's
supposed,
names.
Like that's supposed to change.
We dropped his name. He doesn't bludgeon people anymore.
No, he's just.
Just like Andrade now. There's no
Right.
Andrade Cien Almas. He's just Andrade.
By the way, you guys know what they're doing with that, right?
Oh yeah.
It's the straight edge society.
It's
Pretty
exactly,
much, yeah.
Which when they started doing it, we talked about it, which I think we believed was the direction they were going to go.
Yeah.
Frank Vespi says, "Hey
Fickle.
yo, hey yo, sorry to bother you at work. Welcome back. I know you may be talking about it later in the show, but I saw via Tommy Dreamer's Instagram of a fan forced to remove an AEW shirt. Is WWE that worried of AEW?"
I don't think they're worried necessarily. I just don't want to. I just don't think they want to give him any free publicity.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's a different age now where everybody tries to get themselves over and try to be that guy. I watched, I think it was it Raw or SmackDown? It might have been SmackDown, with a guy center of the fucking screen, and every second he got, he just kept waving it like a flag in front of the screen.
It's ridiculous.
But what I find funny is
that's what you're going to get.
But I love that where everybody is so hyped up about AEW and everything. I'm like, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. They don't even have a TV deal yet.
Yeah.
Let's wait until they get a TV
Yeah.
deal and see what they're going to do.
And we're going to get into that. We're gonna dig in during Hot Tag. We're gonna dig into AEW a lot more. It's been a very eventful month.
Yeah.
It's 31 days in since the official kind of announcement. So
I'm actually thinking, Maddie, that they do have a TV deal in place. They just haven't announced it yet.
I'm surprised they didn't over like the Rumble weekend to kind of take a little pin out of WWE to let them know, hey, we've got a TV deal
That's
now.
one of the reasons why I don't think it's locked in yet.
See,
it could be close, but I don't think it's
I
done
actually think the announcement will come over WrestleMania weekend, not the Rumble weekend.
That is true. That is possible.
But let me, can I jump in for 1 second? I want to go back to the point that you had made a couple minutes ago, Maddie, about the flow of the card.
Yes.
And specifically the Daniel Bryan and AJ match. Because, Chrome, I agree with you that I do think, and Ryan as well, I do think that there was a pretty substantial piece of the audience that just doesn't care. But I almost think that the way that they could have worked that more effectively would have had to have gone through the entire card, just the same order that they did, but have Daniel and AJ be the last singles match before the Women's Rumble. And then you have the buffer between the Women's Rumble and the Men's Rumble be Finn and Brock. Because you knew Finn and Brock wasn't going to go very long, but you knew that there was going to be some pace and some excitement to it. Because we've seen what Brock does in these big man, little man matches with Daniel, with AJ in the past. And to me, at least from my mindset would be, okay, so if they had the Women's Rumble and then they were saving Finn and Brock for the very last one-on-one match of the night before the Men's Rumble, not that they didn't do that anyway, but I feel like if they had hammocked that between the two Rumbles, there may have been more element of doubt going into the match that Finn was going to win or Brock was going to lose, however you want to look at it.
I don't think there was ever a doubt that was going to happen.
No,
But you could be right.
I don't think there was either, but to me,
I
was actually more surprised that they didn't have that match earlier and then have AJ and Daniel later.
Well, let me just say this. If I have my preference, I've seen AJ and Daniel now a number of times. I'd rather see, if we're going to have something as more of a featured match, I'd rather see Finn get that rub and Finn get that opportunity.
No question.
So, I mean, I'm not upset about it. I mean, listen, this was a stacked card top to bottom, to be honest with you, as far as the main card. We're not talking about pre-show.
No, I know what you
mean. So I think it would have been really tough regardless.
Although if you started watching that pre-show.
I did not watch the pre-show.
So the comment that I had made to Ryan was, from the start of the pre-show to the start of the Women's Rumble was like a 5-hour Raw with some good matches. Once you got to the Women's Rumble, things kind of picked up a little bit.
Okay. I gotcha.
But yeah, midnight East Coast time to wrap up that night. It's a long day.
That's the new WWE model, brother.
Yep.
Tom says, just here so I don't get fined.
My man.
Yeah, we'll take that fine off the board for you now, buddy. Daniel Bakley says, Casey dates Ricochet now. Rosca says, Becky Lynch deserved it, and Seth Rollins earned it, and I thought it was Strowman who should have won the Rumble. Velasco, he says, Johnny told me that he was told that he couldn't leave Phoenix until after the Rumble. Not sure if he really knew he was in the Rumble and keeping kayfabe or not, but it seemed like he really didn't know. Interesting.
Well, and that's interesting, and also the Dolph Ziggler interview with Chris Van Vliet that hit, I think it was Saturday morning, where he specifically said, I haven't had a weekend off in 3 years. I will not be in the Rumble.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, number 26 or 27 rolls around, and there's Dolph in the Rumble. Which to me was a pretty lackluster surprise. I like Dolph, but
Well, I'll say this.
using him as a surprise was not
But with everything going on and every time somebody's quote-unquote unhappy,
right.
now they're leaving for AEW.
Yeah.
You know, the rumors started swirling about Dolph immediately.
And that was interesting though, because in the interview with Van Vliet, he never once mentioned being unhappy with WWE or wanting to leave for AEW or anything like that. It was basically, I work for WWE. They allow me to go do these political shows on Fox. They allow me to have a comedy tour. And in WWE, basically, you have to go through me to work your way to the main event. So it actually sounds like he's pretty happy with his position.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I think he's got a little looser reins now. Julian Catanzaro says got the same last name. Rob Povia, Pete Dunne for me. Daniel Bakley, Jarrett was only in it because he signed a producer big time figure role.
Yeah, but it's kind of what came first there, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
Did he get into the Rumble because of the producer deal? Or actually, let me back up a step. Did he get into the Rumble and have to face off against Elias because of the producer deal, or was it something that they said, you know what, we want Jarrett and Elias at WrestleMania to put Elias over, so we'll start that process in the Rumble, and oh, by the way, Jeff, why don't you come on as a producer?
Could be either or. I don't know.
See, and I'm not a huge Jarrett fan.
I don't think they make decisions on the cuff like that, though.
But
I would imagine the producer role was probably in place.
Yeah, if they keep him behind the scenes after this program with Elias, I think he could be great behind the scenes. I'm just not a big fan of him on camera anymore.
Yeah. Brian, it's hard. I'm going to run down these because they keep picking up. He says, I think they went less nostalgic women this time because they overcorrected from overdoing it last year. I mean, we saw it twice. We saw it at Evolution as well. So it was a smart move by them.
That's a good call by Brian.
Yeah. Rob Povia, sweet goal by G, 1-1 after one.
Oh, nice.
All right, we'll take it.
Daniel Bakley, did you see how the wrestlers didn't sell well on Gargano's moves? I didn't notice that. I'll have to go back and watch it again. I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that either.
Rosca says, what's up, boys? Great to see you guys are back. Good to be back, Rosca. Daniel says, I wanted to see Bray Wyatt in the Rumble.
Oh, Rosca over here, by the way, said, I've been waiting for you guys since last year. But
My man, you got it. Tom says, this is how you engage on A2D post FYI. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I think that was another but I'm bummed. Rosca says, I'm ready to see my Rams win the Super Bowl with the Rams defense. Get that shit out of here. He says, what happened to Bray Wyatt? I don't know. I mean, I guess he'll come back. I mean,
Have you ever noticed that JoJo's also gone
I'm
too
curious
at the same time?
for personal reasons if there could be a little something going on.
I mean, like a bun in the oven?
On the way. Yeah.
A bun in the oven.
I mean, they were together for 2 years before Wyatt got divorced. So who knows?
Wouldn't shock me. Zach Boylan thought that Ricochet and Johnny, oh my God, great match.
Oh, absolutely.
Rosca, the U.S. title match should never have been on the kickoff show. He says, Daniel Ripley, I hope Bray Wyatt comes back soon. We all do, man. I miss Bray.
You think they're setting up a Daniel Bryan feud there?
I don't know. Part of me is saying maybe, but then the other part of me is saying
say Harper comes
they
back
did.
with him.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Harper comes back with him, and they do the Bryan and Rowan versus him and Harper.
Well, they did also do the They could have him join Daniel Bryan only because
Nah, I don't see that
well, they've been
happening.
saying they were going to repackage him.
Yeah, but I think they're going to bring him back as a face. I think they're going to give him that singles face run. I can't.
But couldn't
To have him play with all the damage that's happened to him, I think we all agreed. The best thing would be for him at some point to go away for a while and come back.
True.
To bring him back to play lackey or second fiddle to Daniel would be the crushing blow in my eyes for him in WWE.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I prefer to think about it bigger picture, talking the marquee, the savior of the earth versus the eater of worlds. It's got money written all over it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, that could be really, really good, but they have to be against each other. I could see Harper coming back with them, which would be interesting.
They could feud
I mean, they're not bludgeoning together anymore, you know.
Over on the tube, Rob Povia said, Becky Balboa is the biggest thing going for WWE in quite some time. So happy for her, but do you guys think McMahon fucks with her again by making the WrestleMania main event a triple threat with Charlotte? And if so, do you see it culminate in a 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen?
Well,
we saw the tease on the horsewomen with Sasha
and Bailey, apparently.
and Bailey, yeah. I have an interesting thought on that. I do see that match being turned into a triple threat, but I see it being turned into an elimination.
I would prefer that.
And have Becky go through both Charlotte and Ronda to win the belt, so that at that point there is no disputing, that she is, quote unquote, the man. The only downside of that is, does Vince McMahon want to end his biggest show of the year knowing that she will probably be leaving at some point very soon, with Ronda Rousey standing in the middle of the ring holding up the women's championship with all of the TV and Sports Center and news and blah, blah, blah,
Well, I mean,
whatever.
she's not leaving. She's just taking a lighter schedule. She's not actually leaving.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, you could set up a long-term feud because it'd be the first time Becky and Ronda actually face each other in the ring. You could have Becky go over at WrestleMania, build it up for a while, and she could easily play it up as like, yeah, I'm the only one who beat Ronda, and use that for months on end to just beat down all the other women that she winds up having to defend the title against. And then when it's time to bring Ronda back, you bring Ronda back, and Ronda is now looking to get her win back.
There's a little part of me that could see, because it is WWE, if it's an elimination, having Becky take Ronda out first and then Charlotte take out Becky. So it's kind of like Becky gets the rub for getting the first decision on Ronda, but the chase continues because everybody knows the money's in the chase.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and I can...
With her chasing Charlotte.
I will see your point, and I will one-up you by a half. Because, okay, I am totally on board with you with the Becky being the first one to get a decision on Ronda, whether it's a pinfall or a tap or whatever the case may be. But you have it be a major double team with Charlotte and Becky just more or less beating Ronda down, and then the two of them basically fighting over who gets the pinfall. Mm-hmm. Becky gets the pin. So Ronda leaves, and she says, well, it took two of you to get my title from me. I wasn't beaten one-on-one. It took two of you to get my title from me. So she keeps her heat. And then Becky, as you said, she's the first person to get a decision on Ronda. Then it all comes down to, do they put the belt back on their golden goose on the women's side, or do they let Becky continue the rise?
In a way, you could almost even do it where, since Ronda would be leaving for a period of time, you could have, even if you were to have Becky just win the title outright, you can have it stolen from her by somebody else, and she has to chase it down again. Because the thing is just like, yeah, finally the man's got the belt again, and then some other chicanery happens. You could put the belt on someone who's a good, solid heel. Doesn't necessarily have to be Charlotte. Well, actually, I don't even think it would be Charlotte unless they do the Superstar shakeup and she goes back to Raw.
Well, I think at some point this year, Raw and SmackDown brands are going to dissolve.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's going to
think
all.
once the Fox deal goes, 'cause
Yeah.
I think they're going to want everybody on the table. That being said, I find it hard to believe that all the work now that they're putting into Becky, there's not going to be a payoff at WrestleMania. I could see it, which is why I floated that idea out there. But I just find it very hard to believe.
Well, there's another
35 at you have WrestleMania 35 in New York. And listen, 29, you got Rock and Cena too. There was still a lot of mixed reviews about the way that ended. And they always do something big on the 5s and the 0s.
Well, here's where I was going to go with this was actually a couple of things. So going back to your poll question, what's the one woman's name that we haven't mentioned in this discussion at all? Asuka. So she clearly, for me, is not the answer to the poll question because she won the match, but the only reason she won the match was to set everything else in motion. She wasn't even on SmackDown on Tuesday night.
Well, there was a lot of complaining about how could she win clean over Becky, and then Becky just gets to come back out and run right in.
Right.
I look at it differently. I see it that these two women I thought had a very good match, but it was Asuka throwing everything she had and still couldn't take Becky out. So it took something different, creative, and outside the box for her to finally get it done. So I thought it actually made her look really strong, and it still made Becky look strong that she took everything that Asuka had and they continued to come back and go at each other until it took something totally different that we haven't seen.
I want to let these guys go because I'm with you, but I got I got a different spin on it. Go ahead, Maddie.
Well, with Asuka, that's an interesting question on that one of what they would probably plan to do with her. But in the way, though, of with Becky losing, I almost feel like a lot of people always say, like, oh, well, it made her or him look weak or whatever. It's just like, no, certain things make you look weak. Like Shinsuke Nakamura never winning the WWE Championship after turning heel and pretty much not getting, I guess you would say, buried by just losing to AJ night in and night out, looking like he's a nothing challenger because you know he's going to lose the title match. To now where he's just an undercard U.S. champion guy who now is not even that. Asuka, in a way, her defeating Becky doesn't really hurt Becky because Asuka has kind of reclaimed that sort of fire and that passion with her of being the Empress of Tomorrow, winning the SmackDown Women's title, beating Becky. In a way, Asuka really needed the win more than Becky does because the thing is you're building Asuka back up. The last thing you want to do is for her to immediately lose the championship the following month after she just won it in a ladder match where she didn't have to pin or submit anybody, and Ronda Rousey came out and helped her do it. In it, of course, not wanting to, but you don't want to take all that momentum off of Asuka because you just put the belt back on her. Yeah, she wasn't on Tuesday night, but in a way, her not losing clean to Becky does help her case in the long run. Because if she loses immediately, it's like, oh, okay, they're not backing Asuka again, and she just got more dirt thrown into the hole. You know?
See, I don't have a. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say I don't have a problem with Asuka winning that match at all.
Me neither.
I have a problem with the tap out. I would rather have seen, like you said, something new and different and whatever, but I would rather have seen Asuka hit a move that we've not seen from her or seen from her in a while and just stun Becky to the point where she gets a quick 1, 2, 3 and, Becky kicks out a half a second after the 3 count and just completely looks stunned, like, holy shit, she got me by a half a second.
Yeah.
The tap out, to me, kind of makes Becky look a little bit weaker. And for me, logically, I would have been more okay, and I may be putting way too much logic behind this, but I would have been more okay with Becky coming out and begging Fit Finlay to be in the Rumble with her justification being, I lost by a half a second, than the justification being, well, I tapped out. Because you can't justify a tap out. So, to me, the Asuka win was perfect, but I would have rather have seen a pinfall instead of a submission.
So a lot of the arguments that I've heard in regards to that was people said, I'd rather see them pass out. Seeing her do the pass out spot. To me, That's the furthest thing from creative.
No, you don't
because
want that.
With the comparisons to Stone Cold Steve Austin, you're literally very lazily, as we always say, it's lazy booking to dive directly into the Austin handbook and go for the pass out finish, and that's what we're going to do to get her over.
Plus,
you want to have a different spin on it.
And plus, you're not turning Asuka heel, where the goal of that match was for Austin to be babyface and Brett to be heel by the end of it.
Yeah, there was a whole different goal to that.
So let me follow up on that by saying, what do they do now with Asuka at WrestleMania? I mean, if they're going to move Charlotte into the program with Becky, what do they do with Asuka? To me, I think the better end result at the end of WrestleMania 35 is you pair Charlotte up with Asuka.
That's where I think it's going.
You pair Charlotte up with Asuka, you get Charlotte a win. You pair Becky up with Ronda, you get Becky a win. You have Bayley and Sasha win the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. And then you have the four of them standing in the ring at the end of WrestleMania 35, all with their belts. And the last thing you see is Ronda regrouping on the floor after losing to Becky. And then here's Marina and Jessamine and greener than goose shit that I can't stand all showing up to console Ronda.
I could definitely see that happening.
Because that, my friends, is not lazy.
No, it is not. I could also, though, see them giving to give Asuka that extra push, giving Asuka her win back this year at WrestleMania over Charlotte and retaining.
I could see that as well.
So I could see it working either way, actually.
In a way, you could almost have not necessarily a complete comparison, but it's almost kind of like Austin Rock. You got two of the best in the ring right now. Mm-hmm. And one beat one year, the other one beat the other one the other year. If they ever wanted to go back to it to have a rubber match, it could happen. You can leave it open if you book it the ending properly and say, okay, Charlotte got me to tap the first year. I got Charlotte to tap the next year. You go however long you want to go.
Well, this is interesting. Daniel Price chimed in and he said, since they're so determined to have Charlotte in that match, all they had to do was have her come out and taunt Becky. Then Becky backs up into the Asuka lock. That would have made the submission acceptable. She also said, but after Charlotte being the one to kill Asuka's streak last year, Charlotte going over her 2 years in a row and getting number 8 is a bad idea. They're putting Charlotte in Becky's match. Shayna, Schaefer, and Duke are going to show up to set up the horsewomen bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay. I have no issue with anything he said other than I don't disagree with anything he said, but I do feel like where Charlotte is concerned, it doesn't matter what the fans think. They will continue to put belt after belt after belt on her for as long as they want.
And listen, I mean, they could have done it another way. They could have put Becky over Asuka, and they could have had Ronda retain her title, and Charlotte could have won the Rumble, and Charlotte could have came out and said, screw making a choice. I'll challenge both of you.
That would have been interesting.
That was how I thought that it may play out. I actually picked Charlotte to win because I thought that might happen. But that was a way that they could have very easily gone into it. And with the past history between all three of them, it makes a ton of sense. And really, if there is a possibility that they're going to do away with the brand split, you could unify the titles that way.
True. But I think, though, they did make the right choice, though, in having Becky win because, okay, she's the hot one right now. Mm-hmm. She's the hot hand. You go with the hot hand. Let's let her win the Rumble. I feel like, though, she should have ended the Rumble pay-per-view because there was such a bigger want and reaction for that than necessarily Seth. And not because people don't like Seth. It's just that they already knew well in advance it was going to happen. I think some people, to a certain degree, were still believing that Charlotte was going to win the Rumble until Becky came out. Then it's like, okay, Becky's going to win.
Well, it's interesting that you went there, Maddie, because I was just going to say to you guys, it's funny how we've had all this talk and we've barely mentioned the men's Rumble at all because the outcome was just so predictable. Yeah. But the women, the women were captivating, and the storylines make it so much more, I don't want to say believable, but like the intrigue is there's way more intrigue on the women's side than there is the men's.
Well, listen, and I think too, there was more synchronicity to a lot of what we've seen since Survivor Series.
Synchronicity, good
which
word.
is what I feel like made it more captivating to watch. I mean, aside, whether you like the tap or not, as far as the whole night played out, top to bottom, a lot of things came together, and it's been stuff that has been played off of for the last couple of months. There wasn't like, okay, reset button because it's Rumble and we're going to restart.
Right.
No, they've synchronized a lot of things, and with the men's, I mean, they've dropped the seeds of Seth and Brock, but ultimately there really hasn't been a whole lot of Mania prep in regards to where the title match is going to go.
Both titles, actually.
Yeah. I'm going to run down Facebook again. I want to make sure we get all these in before we hop off. But so Andy says AEW is just a T-shirt company as of right now. 1,000% agree with you, by the way, Andy. We're going to get into it, but if anybody thinks can sit here and say that they are competition today, they're out of their fucking minds.
No, they're not competition. They're an alternative.
And I would say, and the way they have been trying, like Cody in particular, they've been trying to say, oh, we're going to compete with McMahon. I'm like, oh, hold off. I like the idea that you want to try and create an alternative, but don't just say you're trying to compete with WWE.
Well, when did he say that?
Well, it was just like everyone has been putting it together. I'm not saying Cody necessarily did it, but the way that they
that's the
been
spin on everybody,
yeah.
right?
But see, here's the thing:
which will be a main point when we get to Hot Tag.
Right, but I've never heard any one person other than Chris Jericho,
right,
refer to themselves as competition for WWE.
Right.
If anything, they've said that they are an alternative, but they are not competition. I actually think they're trying to take the high road on this and basically kind of act like they're not trying to compete at all.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, once the TV deal goes through, Maddie, then you're...
Well, then you ramp it up because now you got a little something to back you.
Yeah.
You got a backbone then. Andy Ritter says, I'm hearing that Turner Broadcasting and AEW are moments away from a deal. I've heard a lot of Turner as well, which to me is hilarious. But
funny how history repeats itself.
Daniel Bakley, from what I heard after the Rumble for women's, a lot of fans went to the restrooms and food, and there were unusually high lines since it was a baseball stadium, which caused a lot of people to miss the first half of the match. Talking about AJ and Bryan, which makes a lot of sense as well. Daniel Bakley says they should have had Bryan Styles where the tag match was. Jim Velasco says, Daniel Bakley, you're right. Also, the place was so packed that bathroom lines were insane during those times. So Velasco's verifying what he said, that the bathroom wait was insane. Daniel says, you knew Brock would win, but sell well. So I wasn't for the Brock Balor match since I knew that would happen. I thought he put Finn over big, and we're going to get into that in a minute. I want to make sure we get out in the first half. Daniel says, Jim says, the only time I left the box was for the entirety of the Shane Barr match, which wasn't a great match, but what an ending, by the way.
Right.
What a spot by Shane.
No question.
Good Lord. A perfect shooting star press.
Which he knocked himself out with 2 years ago at WrestleMania.
Oh, my God. What a great ending to that match. David Lengo says they need to go back to the old school wrestling. It's weak right now. Different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, agreed.
Velasco says, it's not weak if you watch more than WWE. I don't totally disagree with that either. There's different forms of it.
It's preference for the most part.
Right. Daniel says NJPW is money. Brian says, I think Charlotte wins the SmackDown title at Chamber. Brian says, and then the title for unification at Mania.
Okay.
That could be a roundabout way
be
of getting to what I thought.
Could be a roundabout way of getting there, absolutely.
Daniel says, I think Charlotte shouldn't be in the match and should go after Asuka. Why have Asuka face a second-tier woman when she's avenging her loss to Charlotte would be much better or be nice. And he says there was a report that came out saying that Ronda was just offered more money to not be gone for so long and take more of a Brock schedule. Again, I've heard a lot of that. I think what happened with that was the report originally, and if you look at the wording, said that she was not going to be around as much. She she wasn't going to be around for a while.
Well,
but people dropped off certain words
but
and
you
statements and took
you have
liberties.
to rewind on that though, because here's what happened: is that when she first signed, she specifically said that she didn't think it was going to be a long-term career move because she wanted to start a family.
Correct.
So now, a year later, she's talking about taking some time off, and everyone is just assuming that time off is because she wants to start a family.
No.
She's never said that.
No.
It's literally just a wrestler taking time off.
Yeah, I mean,
and they do it all the time.
My understanding is the commitment she made, whether she's full-time every week, cuts back to a part-time, is 2 WrestleManias at least.
In a way, though,
I'm sorry, 3 WrestleManias, 2 years.
2 years, right.
In a way, though, I don't think that hurts Ronda if she does do more of a Brock schedule. If anything, I think that helps her because no, and I'm not saying it's not because she isn't capable of talking. She is capable of talking. We've seen that. I just think sometimes the fans get a little fed up with what she says because you can hear it on Raw. People kind of just don't get necessarily 100% behind her promos.
Well, I think,
and that may be to the point where some of the smarkier fans are trying to put it down, like, oh God, this
tell you what,
long stuff.
Every word she said on Raw this week was fucking 100% spot on truth.
So I think my buddy Nate Longstreet made a great point this week when we were in our text chat, and he said, Smiling Ronda backstage with Charlie Caruso and everybody else, it doesn't connect. But when she's in the ring and the intensity of who she really is as a fighter starts kicking in, you get the best shit from her.
Yep,
it's absolutely her best work.
And that's why I say, if in a lot of ways, it does help her because when she comes back or when she does show up, it means so much more because she's not there to talk with a smile on her face. She's there to basically just beat the shit out of somebody and win a match.
Listen, I could see her coming back with Heyman down the road as well.
That too.
Last couple here. Bob Best, he says, WWE made these Rumbles too predictable. We kind of dove into that a little bit. Daniel says, with Bianca Belair not tapping to Baszler the night before, I think they didn't want to do the non-tap out back-to-back nights.
Fair.
Also, fair point. Brian says they had Becky enter that way to atone for the way they got Reigns in at 30 after Reigns lost the title title match the same night. They learned from that.
Okay.
Fair.
On the tube, David Rosca says, did you see Becky punch Charlotte in the face with that promo? Of course. Thought it was a great shot, by the way.
It was.
Daniel Price said, talking about Charlotte, her dad took almost 3 decades. Her getting the fast track makes fans look at her the same way as Reigns. That's the wrong kind of heat, even for a Flair. True, but if they want her to eventually go full-fledged heel, you can very easily reverse that heat, even if it's the wrong kind of heat.
And to be fair, too, Charlotte, she has her dad's blood in her, but she's not her dad. And it was a different time period when Flair was doing the 3 decades and winning all those championships.
Rosca says Mandy freaking Rose should have never been eliminated by Naomi. Daniel Price says, oh, yeah, it was always going to be Seth or Drew no matter what. He also said Seth's going to pin Lesnar after one clean curb stomp. He's going to try several first. Lesnar counters into multiple F5s, and after he finally nails one, Lesnar eats the pin. There's more. Actually, there's a lot more.
Does anybody think that they may put an extra stipulation to a match between the two of them at a WrestleMania?
I hope not.
Like almost like a steel cage or something like that, where they may even say, you know what, we'll even let you guys get juice because it's Mania, so we'll do it this one time. You can actually get blood in the match. Not blood dripping, soaking to the mat, but maybe go just a tiny bit further than how you've originally gone. Only to say, okay, if Rollins was to win the match there, you could always have another match between him and Brock future down the line just in case you need to.
I don't think you'll see that because WWE is so about the iconic moments and visuals that come from WrestleMania now. And because they are so against blood, having that as the visual if Seth's busted open, as the kind of visual that they run for years on end, I just don't see them going that
Gotcha.
route this year or this time and age.
And I agree with that. And I also think the other thing with them is that it's very rare that you see Vince put any stipulations on his big title match at WrestleMania.
Aside from it being a triple threat.
A triple threat. I mean, you barely ever even see like a no disqualification.
Yeah.
So
Brian Attard said, Chrome, I can't agree with you more. Ronda's music and look doesn't fit her badass character at all. I will disagree with the music because that's the music she came out to every fight for UFC.
Right.
So that does fit her character and personality. I don't have an issue with her attire. I was okay with the smiling at first, like, hey, I'm happy to be here, but I need to see a little more of the intense Ronda. So I would agree with you 100% on that. The attire, I mean, Piper's her guy. Yeah. That's her guy. I'm not going to knock her for that. Yeah. I mean, Sasha does her gear a lot of times to model something similar to Eddie Guerrero because that was her guy.
Daniel Price says it's going to be the reverse scenario of when Rollins stole the WWE title when he cashed in during Reigns and Lesnar. Bet he comes out in his white and gold Savior gear.
Be a great visual.
And he says I guess he's back to talking about Charlotte here. The downside of that is it makes her look like a twat when there's jobbers and house show workers that stay on the road for years and don't get extended. Oh, okay. It's almost Ronda nepotism to a degree.
Well, again, it's one of those things where it's no offense to the people who do work the house shows and do show up every day. The problem is like Ronda is, and I hate to say this, but it's business. Do you draw money? And if you draw money, you have a little bit of leverage.
She's also a mainstream celebrity.
Yeah, that too, and that's what the other purpose to that. You know, you draw money, you're a mainstream celebrity, you bring attention to the WWE. And that's no offense to someone who is a great worker, but there are a lot of great workers in the world that don't draw money. They're just there as an enhancement talent.
I'm going to take it a step further than that.
Go ahead.
Ronda Rousey is one of the barrier-breaking women in any sport in the world. True. She is world-renowned, world-known, and one of the first or most iconic women in professional sports that was held on the same level as men. And for that, she's not a person that hasn't worked her ass off her whole life for everything she's ever gotten.
Right.
Yeah.
And for that, that's money.
Yeah.
And it makes 100% sense. And if she came in with an entitled attitude, I might have agreements with people who want to be critical. But she came in, she humbled herself and worked her ass off. And I could tell you, they would have still featured her in a lot of different ways. If she didn't come in with the right frame of mind and right attitude from day one, Vince has knocked people down on pedestals who have been up here before. He could have done it the same way. There's a reason why she is given the opportunities that she has. And for me, she absolutely deserves it.
And she does. But at the same time, too, it's like, I say that again, and this isn't, and that's not an offense to the people who work every show. It's just like, guys, listen, it's the wrestling business. And the business is to draw money. And if Ronda's drawing you money, she's got a little bit of leverage where she could say, hey, I do want to take a few months off. Like, all right, you've earned it. You drew us a lot of money. Why not? We can do it. And also, the old saying goes, and I've heard it from guys like Jim Cornette all the time, how can we ever miss you? And it's not like we don't want to ever see you again if you don't go away.
Well, and that, spot on. But to your point, she said it in the ring on Monday night. She was main eventing sports, combat sports, that didn't even want women to have a presence in the sport. And she was main eventing. She was main eventing while Becky was still trying to figure out her character and direction.
And training.
You know, and she said...
She was main eventing while Becky was still a fucking airline stewardess.
Airline stewardess, right. I was just going to say that.
And probably
that's a fact. That's a truth.
And going on an eventual tour to Japan every once in a while to go wrestle.
But that's an argument, and you know I've said that before.
Yeah.
And I feel like we have to constantly remind people... there's worlds outside of the pro wrestling world, ways that you can earn your keep. And This isn't David Arquette being handed a title. This isn't Kevin Green and Steve McMichael being thrown into the fucking business.
Right.
This is someone that has a legitimate pedigree and background
in a combat
sports
right.
that has absolutely broken walls down. World renowned.
Like nobody complained about Kurt Angle or Mark Henry.
Yeah. I mean, and here's the other thing, too. You know what the best...
And you know why.
Yeah, and you know what?
Absolutely know why.
And the best part of that is, too, is just like not only her doing the light schedule helps with all of that, but it also comes to the point where you hate Brock Lesnar. You can't stand him. And you hate the fact that he takes the belt and he goes hides in his cave out there in Winnipeg or wherever the hell he lives.
Saskatchewan, I think.
Saskatchewan. Yeah. But point is that, like,
Saskatoon.
As much as you hate Brock, you want to see him because you want to see him lose. You want to see him lose that Universal title. And it's funny because as much as you hate Brock Lesnar not showing up every day, it's like you just feed that fact that because you're going to go see him when he shows up. You're going to go see him just so that you could be there the day he finally permanently loses that Universal title. Who knows?
The best thing that WWE could do with Ronda is just stop scripting her promos.
Just let her talk.
Let her speak from the heart.
A lot of people need that.
What would Ronda say in this situation? Because they let her go when she was cutting the promo on the Bellas, and it was some of her best work. And I think she came damn close to that on Monday night.
Yeah.
And like you said,
without having to take the cheap shots that she did with the Bellas. When you talk about the John Cena stuff.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Whether you love her, but I'm saying whether you love or hate that, she was able to carry the same level of a promo without having to kind of dig into those the cheap shots.
But to that point, like you said, when she's backstage with Charlie Caruso smiling and trying to cut a babyface promo,
it's weird.
It's not good.
It doesn't work.
So don't have her do them.
Yeah, and here's one other way too that you can even look at it. You can almost have a Becky if you had to do the scripting side of things. This is how I would have approached it. Becky acts all tough and everything towards her, and all Ronda does is smile right at her and say, like, I'll kill you, and just leave. Mic drop that says everything you need to know. Ronda's not intimidated whatsoever by Becky. You could say so much. Less is more sometimes with people who have proven combat sport experience. Lesnar doesn't have to say a damn thing. Paul does all his talking for him, where at the same time, all Ronda has to do is say one thing, drop the mic, walk away. The fans be like, oh, okay then.
But to that point, where it all sort of ties back to Becky though is it's obvious Ronda is quote unquote the baddest woman on the planet, and she pretty much could kill Becky.
Yeah.
But Becky shows no fear or intimidation. She stands right there in her face.
Exactly.
But that to the point though is like it's almost like Ronda can even counter Becky being all tough and everything by simply saying, I've eaten women like you for breakfast in the combat world, so I don't need to worry about you come Mania time. And that could even feed the fire of Becky where it's just like, you will notice me. You will notice me, and you will show me respect.
Yeah, we'll dive further into this. We'll get a few more points from the card that I would like to touch on. We'll maybe a few more points from Raw and SmackDown if we get to it. We'll talk AEW and Hot Tag. We're going to talk Dean Ambrose and Hot Tag. Are Smarks a little too smart for themselves for their own good? We'll talk that. We got a lot more on the other side. If you join us on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, stick with us on YouTube, but Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, Twitter, we appreciate it, guys.
Jump over to the tube.
Hit the tube, click the link. We're going to continue this conversation. Maddie, give us a read.
All right, then. This whole first portion of Lazy Booking was brought to you by Scanzano Sports Center, located at 5 Carnegie Plaza in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. You can give a call at 856-889-3434 or visit them on the web at www.scanzanosports.com.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Tom and Mike, AM in the PM, is brought to you by Gibson Mayer, LLC, certified public accountants. Gibson Mayer, located in Yardley, PA, is a leading accounting and business consulting firm with a proven track record of handling critical issues with expertise across many different industries, including construction, distribution, hospitality, manufacturing, real estate, service trades, merchandising, professional services, and professional athletes. Give them a call at 215-369-3300. That's 215-369-3300. Your initial consultation is always free, and if you tell them that Mike from Tom and Mike AM in the PM sent you, you'll receive 15% off all income tax services completed by February 15th. That's Gibson Mayer, LLC, certified public accountants. 215-369-3300. Or visit them on the web at www.gibsonmayer.com. That's www.gibsonmayer.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Lazy Booking right here in Mountie from New Jersey in the Real Talk Studios and on A2DRadio.com. We are brought to you by Sports Outlet for all your sporting needs, located at 703 Black Horse Pike, Englandore, New Jersey. Give them a call at 856-939-2030. Email them at sportsoutletnj@comcast.net or visit them on the web at www.sportsoutletinc.com.
Nice. Welcome back, guys. We are on YouTube and the website. Back to Lazy Booking. Mike Mataraki, Maddie Sensudi, Ryan Brodo over on the ones and twos, and Chrome. Happy to be back after our hiatus. We're ready to continue talking professional wrestling.
Hell yeah.
Or sports entertainment, whatever you want.
I think we were done talking sports entertainment, and we were now getting ready to talk professional
We are
wrestling.
going to be
I
shortly.
believe so.
You know, one thing we were just kind of touching on before on the break I wanted to talk about was somebody mentioned earlier the predictability of Brock and Finn. I have a totally different view on it. In my eyes, I felt Brock put Finn over in a big way. And you know, if Brock doesn't like a guy, Brock will not put a guy over. He will not make them look good.
Like a Roman.
Yeah.
Actually, I think he made Roman look good. I was going to
do
go more
too.
like Dean Ambrose.
Ambrose is the guy that I would think as well. I thought he made him look extremely strong. And the fact, and I think the point that I made to Mike was what told me everything that I needed to know and how I feel like Finn came out looking like $1 million in this was the fact that the whole lead-in was that Finn wasn't big enough and didn't deserve to be in that spot against a guy like Brock.
That was the story, yeah.
But he frustrated and had Brock reeling so much in that match that Brock had to go back and get more after the fact because he was just so agitated by how well that Finn did against him. And I thought that made Finn look really strong as a guy who could stand toe-to-toe with a main eventer like a Brock Lesnar or a Drew McIntyre or anybody else like that. So I liked that match. I thought the card overall was very good. Again, I didn't watch pre-show, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the entire card of the pay-per-view. And, I mean, I actually thought it was one of their best events they've had in a long time. One of their best overall Royal Rumbles, top to bottom, in a long time. And I felt like they set themselves up very well to move forward heading towards WrestleMania.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I think the men's rumble was a very good call out to a lot of the workers in the company who don't always get a big spot. A guy like Apollo Crews, for instance, who they have been booking better in recent months. But
He's getting there.
He's getting there, but he had been doing the undercard thing with Titus forever, and now he comes out and he does. He had a good showing in the Rumble, you know, and I think the ladies were more of the surprise Rumble. And the men was more of the work rate Rumble. If you catch my drift, a lot of the guys in there were the good workers and guys who were being given a lot of looks from NXT as well.
I would love to see Apollo Crews in a tag team with Shelton Benjamin.
Oh man, that would be an athletic team for sure.
And if they were booked properly, Apollo gets over and Shelton carries him right to the top.
It could almost be the SmackDown version of, or if they could move him to SmackDown, they could have the SmackDown version of Bobby Roode and
Chad Gable.
Yeah. You know, the veteran guy taking the younger guy under his wing and kind of getting him to that next level. I would love to see it. I would have no problem with that whatsoever. But I would agree with you, and I do think you did have some of the comedy spots in the women's match, particularly how indestructible Alicia Fox's captain's hat is.
And then, of course, you could forget Hornswoggle.
Hornswoggle. That, by the way, was a brilliant spot, though. To have Zelina Vega, like the random shots of her just kind of peeking up and then going back under, it was so well done, the camera shots on that.
It was actually like when Jerry did it way back when he was hiding underneath the ring. Selena was doing the same thing, and she was laughing at the people who got eliminated the entire time. And, of course, when Hornswoggle popped his head out, I'm not going to lie, I cried laughing.
I thought it was pretty
I
funny,
kind of
too.
marked on that one.
Yeah, I found it to be pretty funny, too, and I'm usually not a big fan of those spots. And then we saw Dave come out later, Fit Finley.
Well, everybody gets the Hornswoggle tie-in, though, right? When they asked Titus, what were you doing under the ring at the Greatest Royal Rumble? And he said, I was looking for Hornswoggle.
I didn't catch that.
So
No.
it was like their own little inside joke that all just sort of came back around.
Nice.
I was waiting for them to actually do a part 2 with Titus and actually have him like dive under the ring intentionally and make it look like he fell again.
Oh, God. I thought that they were going to do that, to be honest with you. I did like how he just kind of did the stop.
It's probably the single biggest pop I think Titus has ever had in his entire career is at that moment.
So David Rosca says, A2D Radio, WWE is worried that Dean is heading to AEW. I don't think they're worried about it.
I don't even think he's going anywhere. I think it's an angle.
That idea has been floated to me, and I could see that absolutely being something.
Well, we'll know once his contract runs up if he shows up or not.
When does WWE, 3 months before somebody's contract, a major name...
4 months, because his contract expires at the end of April.
So a top...
No, I'm sorry, 3 months. You're right.
A top featured star have his announcement that he's leaving the company happen 3 or 4 months, give or take a couple of days, prior to that, be announced, and they continue to feature him. And clearly, if you watched Raw, he had the sit down in the chair in the ring like he was going to say something, and then they did something where Nia came out. I'm leaning more towards it being an angle, too, and I think something like that is going to tie in, something that was conveniently probably constructed to enhance that. That'll probably come into play down the road.
And for my money, the fact that there was an extended visual of he and Triple H virtually nose to nose on Raw on Monday night tells me that WrestleMania is going to be Triple H versus Dean Ambrose.
Yeah.
And if it's not an angle, Triple H is going to be the one that sends him off to wherever he's going to go.
Yep.
And if it is an angle, Ambrose goes over on Triple H, and it starts a new spin on the storyline.
I agree.
To be fair, too, also, if he does leave, do you think that he would go? I'm pretty sure he'd get offered. Do you think he would 100% take a deal with AEW with them? Not yet. I mean, they'll probably have a TV deal by then, but I don't know. To me right now, if I'm a superstar in WWE, I'm kind of holding back a minute or two saying, well, hold on. AEW right now doesn't have a TV deal that we know of.
But if they have guaranteed contracts, do you even care about a TV deal?
That is true. I mean, that unfortunately brings up the old initials of WCW right there on
Exactly.
that one, you know.
Here's where what I'm thinking is going to happen if in fact this is legit and he leaves. He's going to have a 90-day non-compete at the end of his WWE contract, which means he's not going to be anywhere near Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing is less than a month after his WWE contract ends. But it wouldn't surprise me because AEW did allude to the fact that at the end of the summer they will be having their second event in Jacksonville. It wouldn't surprise me if they just basically allowed him to sit at home, unsigned, unannounced, whatever the case may be, and if they are going to get him, he debuts as a surprise at that second AEW quote-unquote pay-per-view.
Right. I mean, for me, it's not a huge loss.
For WWE now.
I forgot, honestly, that he was even on the roster the whole time he was hurt, except for when you kind of realized coming up towards Survivor Series, like,
Shield,
this is around that time, you know, that he may be coming back. If he's gone, not a huge loss in my eyes. Oh, boy.
Fumble!
Rooski.
That's right.
And I think if it is true that he is going elsewhere, it could be the best thing for him, and I don't think it would have done any damage to WWE. And the door is clearly left open for a return, which I could imagine seeing.
Based on what they said, like
the way it was portrayed,
more than welcome to come back whenever you want.
And I also felt like and people think I'm putting too much into this, but I don't think I am. The guy has an opportunity to work with his wife, who has a prominent role with the company.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just that, you know, we see each other twice a week when we're home. They're on the same brand.
They're on the same show,
They
yeah.
see each other all the time. He's essentially, that's going to be a huge life difference for them, unless maybe they need it. But that's going to be a huge change for them. I can't see that the way that it's kind of played out to this point and taking that in consideration. I don't know that I see him actually leaving. That's just me. To me, if they were going to announce it, they'd probably sit him home, let his contract run out,
yeah.
and then do the 90-day compete clause. Non-compete clause.
That's just it's one of those big rumor things that have been swirling around since the announcement of AEW. Like, oh, okay, what stars are going to jump from WWE to AEW? Well, if they're smart, they're going to wait, and they're going to wait and see if this company actually does get off the ground. Yes, they have money backing them, but you need more than just money to back. You also need to have a foundation that needs to be laid down. Yeah. And right now, it's getting worked on, and I have no doubt about it that it is getting worked on. But again, we have to wait and see. There's a lot of question marks on AEW.
Well, I'll tell you what, Matty. If I was an independent wrestler, I'm not under contract to anyone.
Okay.
And Cody or Matt or Nick Jackson approached me, I wouldn't think twice. Because I would look at it and say, okay, they pulled off All In, and they basically took the success of All In and parlayed it into a multi-million-dollar deal with the Khan family. And the Khan family, they're not stupid money. They own the Jaguars. They own I think it's Fulham FC over in the
Premier League,
the English Premier League. Thank you. I'm like EPL. What's it mean? Yes, English Premier League. They own golf courses and country clubs all around the world. They're not dumb money, and if they're willing to offer guaranteed contracts with health care, I would be willing to gamble on that company, knowing that there's going to be money in my pocket and healthcare backing me up. If they don't hit TV for a year, I'm still making money, doing what I love to do with healthcare, and it's all guaranteed.
Yep.
I'm on that boat.
Yeah.
I want to be on the ground floor of that.
Yeah.
Interestingly, though, and I don't know if you guys heard this, when Chris Jericho did the one and only one-man Talk is Jericho in the history of his podcast, He did about I want to say it was a 55 minute explanation of how he came to be part of AEW.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to read or listen to it. I haven't listened to it yet.
The one thing that struck me more than anything was the reveal that when he was doing the Fozzy tour and then he showed up at All In, the plane that flew him into and out of Chicago was owned by Tony Khan.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time he met Tony Khan was on the flight into Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So if you start putting the pieces together,
Mm-hmm.
Tony Khan had interest in a relationship with Chris Jericho going as far back as September.
Mm-hmm.
What's to say that this whole premise of AEW wasn't necessarily spawned from All In, but All In was more of a, hey guys, show me you can do it, and we'll marry. The marriage will take place.
Mm-hmm.
Cody and the Bucks may have been talking to Tony Khan for months prior to All In,
Mm-hmm.
and All In was their make good on we can do this.
Yeah, no, it's very possible. Real quick over on the on
the
tube.
tubes.
Velasco, he says, I called the Hornswoggle spot as soon as Zelina went under the ring. My friend couldn't believe it when it actually happened and yelled, how did you know? Daniel Price says he doesn't think it'll work. He said it would be ridiculous and serve no purpose. They'd be tipping their hand and going, by the way, Dean's getting the Punk treatment but never going to be as over as long as he doesn't leave. And he says, yeah, Ambrose is going to be Triple H's obligatory Mania match, shovel and all. Waltman, like him or hate him, summed it up. Vince is embarrassing Dean on the way out. By the way, Triple H puts everybody over at WrestleMania. He has lost so many WrestleMania matches putting guys over.
Unless you're Sting.
But if anything, Sting should be putting him over. He's a lot older.
I know, it was a joke.
Right. Oh, well, that was a big thing, though. That was people complaining that he should have gone over. Velasco says, I'm pretty sure there's a 90-day no-compete period if a contract expires, only when they're released or granted a release.
Well, also, by the way, everybody who...
They could release him 2 days before his contract's up, and there's a 90-day no-compete, I guess. I don't know.
Well, the funny part is, too, is that a lot of people are talking about, yeah, but so-and-so's asking for their release, so-and-so's asking for their release. It's like, yes, but WWE doesn't have to honor them.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
WWE could totally tell them, all right, fine, you want to go to AEW, but you're sitting on your ass at home and you're
Yeah.
not doing anything for a year.
I would, and honestly, the only person out of all of the people who have asked for their release, rumored or not, the only one that's been granted was Hideo Itami. But if you think about it, it's no major loss. The guy is always hurt. He's clearly unhappy, and you could see it in his work.
Yeah.
I mean, with him, it's not, I want to jump ship to AEW. It's, I'm miserable in WWE, and I probably am going to go back to Japan.
No.
Oh, yeah,
and-
he's probably going to go back to... Well, you know what? Actually, that's a debate. I'm wondering if he shows up, not necessarily in Pro Wrestling Noah, if he actually takes a chance and goes to NJPW. That only because NJPW is the big company there right now. Noah's kind of a number 2 right now.
I mean,
Interesting.
Quick Eagles breaking news.
Eagles and Rodney McLeod have agreed to a reworked contract that will keep him with the team through 2019.
So he is off that list that we
Yes.
talked about, the potential cap cuts. I was going to say so. Oh, I mean, the thing with Tommy, too, didn't do himself any favors with the constant repeated injuries as
No.
well. And, I mean, that's out of your control. But, I mean, any momentum he started to get was immediately derailed with the constant injury bug. Maybe just a change of scenery for that guy will do wonders for him because, I
No.
mean, the potential is insane there.
Well, and he came in at a time, too, where, yes, he was the first of the big-name free agents to sign and go to NXT. But like you said, the injury history and the fact that, he came in and he was followed shortly thereafter by Finn Balor, by Kevin Owens. I think Apollo was another one in that general time frame there. He didn't speak English very well.
Yeah.
And he was over with the NXT audience based on his work, but when you get injured as much as he does, if you can't talk
You get forgotten
to get
about.
yourself back over when you're healthy, boom, like you said, you get forgotten
You
about.
get left in the dust.
Yeah, because Japan, it's almost culture shock when you come over from Japan. Because Japan, it doesn't matter if you can talk. What matters is if you can work.
Right.
You know, whereas in America, you need to do both.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you don't need to do the working aspect if you can talk. Sometimes, but most of the time you have to do both.
Daniel says exactly, and Cody's not stupid enough to book himself constantly going over like a lot of people think he's going to.
No, I don't
No,
see that.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
If he learned anything from his father, he won't book himself going over constantly.
No. David Rosca says Wade Barrett should come back to WWE. Andrew,
You may see Wade Barrett in AEW.
possibly. Andrew Inatenko says AEW
Andy, my man.
will be healthy alternative to WWE, in my opinion. Alternative, I agree. There's no need to compete.
Nope.
It's actually better when they're, compete, but not try to take each other out. And I don't think you're going to see that.
I think there will be more competition for Impact and Ring of Honor than they will WWE.
I agree.
Oh, absolutely. Which is why you saw Impact and ROH immediately throw exclusivity deals at a lot of talent they did not want to lose.
Daniel Price says, I want to see AEW bring in Sandow and do his intellectual savior gimmick right this time. Here's my concerns with Sandow, though. That Liberace gimmick that he did in Impact, that was his own creative.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is indicative to taking the cuffs off and allowing him to have his own creative, it didn't work.
It wasn't
I was
good.
open-minded to it. It just was not good at all. It was pretty terrible.
I'm the kind of guy who looks at Sandow now and I say he's a great guy for manager purposes. Like he could be a guy who can talk to someone who can't talk because he cuts really good promos. It's just sometimes his gimmick and his shtick doesn't get over when it comes to the in-ring aspect of it. In my opinion, that's where I think he could fit in well, is if he was to take a few guys who aren't good talkers and someone who can be molded into a talker, and he becomes their manager and he takes care of them in that way. Sometimes you're not meant to be the Steve Austin or the Rick Rude. Sometimes you're meant to be the Paul Heyman at the end of the day, and that's not a bad thing, you know.
No, it's not even that. I mean, I think it could still work. Sometimes you can be the mid-card guy and you're fine.
Yeah, true. You could be one of those solid
And you
workers
can
that
have
has a paycheck
Yeah, and you
at
can
the
have
end of the day.
and be a guy that a company puts a lot of stock into in a different way because of that. Unfortunately, that's the rumor that you hear about that jobbing piece of shit Tito Santana. Was that Tito was a guy that they always felt like, you know, win or lose, they could throw him out there. There was a reliability in him. I still say he was the biggest jobber of all time, but I digress. But you can be that guy. I'm not saying he's a jobber, but you don't have to be the guy at the top of the card. I would venture to say a lot of his success in WWE was because of The Miz and not necessarily in hindsight on him. He did he capitalized on everything that everybody looked at The Miz and thought was condescending and over the top and pompous.
He took lemons and he made lemonade. The problem was he went elsewhere and they gave him limes and he still tried to make lemonade.
Yeah. It
Doesn't
wasn't
work.
good. It just
No,
wasn't good.
No, it's true. Again, though, at the end of the day, with him, you know, there's a difference. You're not a jobber. You're an enhancement talent. There's a difference between the two.
Yeah.
The enhancement.
Right, Tito's a jobber.
Yeah. Sometimes an enhancement will get
He's a former
second.
Intercontinental Champion.
But sometimes an enhancement talent will get a secondary title, like the Intercontinental title, in order for the guy who is supposed
On a silver fucking platter,
yes,
Maddie.
in order for the guy who's going to make money in the future to beat him and take that belt off of him. And that's not a bad role to have. Sometimes you need those guys. And I think sometimes that does hurt WWE because a lot of times they have so many really great talents. Sometimes they're missing a few of those enhancement talents that are good enough to be in that mid-card, but you know they're never going to be a world champion. Like a Dolph Ziggler, he's an enhancement talent. He'll get belts, but you know for a fact he's not going to be a world champion, but he's going to have great matches with guys who are eventually going to be world champions. Seth Rollins is the perfect example of this, even though he had been champion prior to that. But you can't say that rivalry he had with Dolph last year didn't help his resume in him eventually getting pushed like this for the Universal title.
Daniel says, no way Tito's above Barry Horowitz on the jobber hierarchy.
Did you want me to?
I would beg to differ that El Jabador is the king of all overrated.
Well, he was a jobber when he
talents
became
ever.
El Matador. But when he was just Tito Santana, and you were like in diapers, he actually was somewhat entertaining.
You're talking about like 87 and 88 when I was kind of just getting into wrestling. And
maybe even earlier than
I
that.
loved everything, every face that was out there. Every good guy. I was in that stage where they're all, they're
All
the
the
good
good
guys.
guys.
Except for him, and there was no attention span for that guy.
That's funny.
The worst.
So did you want to run down the roster for AEW?
Run it down for
Okay,
me.
so I'm going off the top of my head, and if we fall short of 15, tell me, because then I will have forgotten someone.
I think it's 15 officially.
I think the initial, it is 15. So you have, obviously at the top, you have Jericho, Cody, the Bucks, Adam Page. It's 5.
Yep.
Brandy is 6. Marty's not signed.
Oh, he is.
Marty's still in Ring of Honor.
Oh, all right then.
So Brandy's 6. Janela, Penelope Ford makes 8. Maxwell J. Friedman, who I absolutely love,
he's spectacular.
is 9. Pac is 10.
Had a chance to spend some time with him at CZW 18 too when we worked with Riddle and Starr.
Nice.
Great dude. Great. Yeah, he's funny.
So Pac is 10. Britt Baker is 11. SCU takes you to 14. And by the way, Scorpio Sky, absolutely love him. Mm-hmm. And there would be major money in a singles feud between Scorpio Sky and MJF. And 15 is Jungle Boy, who we learned over the weekend is Luke Perry's son. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, though, late news breaking, earlier today, along with those 15, very likely going to see best friends Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta leaving Ring of Honor to sign with AEW, as well as another female talent, Kylie Ray, and a 4th potential new talent. This one's a bit up in the air because of the schedule that he works, but Sammy Guevara. On top of that, the one thing that they made mention of at their introductory press conference is that they intend to have a working relationship with OWE from China. And if you've ever seen any of the OWE stuff from China, specifically a guy named Sema, not Cena, Sema, that stuff is really, it's cool to watch. It's a little different than what we're used to here in the States, obviously. Even a little bit different from what they do in Japan, but it's cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, sometimes you get a little new life or something fresh injected into the product, and there you go. Now, that's actually, it's a good segue for this, though. That's the other big question mark that you have to say about AEW. It's like, okay, you got the TV deal, time slot, everything. Everything's good to go. What are you trying to draw, and who is your main audience? Because a lot of people are just automatically assuming it's just the indie audience they're trying to appeal to. Because in my opinion, if I'm running AEW, I don't necessarily give a shit because I know they're coming. I'm more interested in, can I attract people outside of that audience? Like, say, maybe a casual who stopped watching WWE because they got sick and tired of it being as hokey as it can.
Well,
get,
I think that's where you go, is you're looking for somebody who maybe at one point was a big WWE fan who has lost interest in the WWE product, maybe still really enjoys wrestling, but can't get into the indies because there's no name value.
Yeah, and that's really where that's my big question mark. And the other big question mark too is, are you going to go indie? Like, are we going to see Joey Ryan's on your TV? Because that's the one thing I'm a little worried about, is putting a Joey Ryan on television, because that may put a few people off-putting Because like they see the one dick flip, and next thing you know, they're like, "Yeah, this is stupid. I'm never watching."
Well,
this
listen.
again."
Here's the thing. I think that what they need to do is kind of what you see with Ring of Honor and what you see with Impact, working with companies like AAA, like NJPW and whatnot. They need to me, the structure of WWE is what their issue is, right? I think limiting guys to not be able to go and do other things and work other things almost to me seems counterproductive to what these guys all stand for. So if they take what kind of like what we saw with Ring of Honor and Impact a lot at working with AAA and all, to have your own base product, but to be able to be a platform to work with other great talents in the world, but do it on a much grander scale than anybody's had the opportunity to do at this point with a legitimate television deal, not Pop TV or, whatever
Access.
fucking channel Ring of Honor was on for whatever.
Oh, HDNet.
Yeah, whatever it is, HGTV or whatever the fuck they were on. Give it a legitimate chance to have a true platform to put to gain and build name recognition with the best talents in the world. That's their best chance at being able to compete with WWE in a shorter time frame and have a true alternative. Otherwise, if you're limiting guys and it's exclusive deals and whatnot, I don't think it really works. To me, it's counterproductive to everything that these guys have seemed to stand for going forward.
Well, here's what's
and that's what I worry about. Though.
What's interesting is in that Jericho podcast, he did say that he is exclusive to AEW in the sense that he will not work for WWE or any other American companies. He is, however, still able to take bookings with New Japan, and he is able to work for New Japan in the United States.
Which
It'll be interesting to see what happens come April 6th at Madison Square Garden with the G1 Super Show between Ring of Honor, New Japan, if Jericho is there, and if he is, do we have any other members of the AEW roster show up, either through part of a working arrangement or kind of like what you see the Young Bucks doing right now, where they're basically going out every weekend and just showing up at independent shows free of charge to scout talent and to just make appearances because they love being in the ring.
And not only that, too, also one thing that has also been rumored that Jericho is still working with NJPW, and he might be getting set to do a rivalry with Tanahashi for the IWGP Heavyweight title.
I did see that, yeah.
Which would be super huge if AEW, he's representing AEW, Tanahashi's representing NJPW. That's big right there because that brings you onto the international stage because you're already here in America. You already got that influence with the Smarks around here. You can now say, okay, now we're facing off with the best champion out of Japan. So you can have a big show right there. A part of me debates if that is a main event that they're trying to work out for Madison Square Garden. And I only say that because since Kenny's leaving, but he might be going to AEW, which then could shoehorn that in there.
I think if Kenny shows up anywhere in the United States, it's going to be AEW. I think if he was going to show up in WWE, they would have bought him out of the last 5 days of his contract, and he would have debuted at the Rumble.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, too, because a part of me had debated, okay, does AEW pay more? Once I found out they do pay more and it's guaranteed, I'm like, all right, then it makes sense for Kenny to go because if beforehand when he was kind of looking like he was going to AEW, this was before the guarantees and everything like that were really announced. It's like, I don't know if that's the smartest move in the world because if you're at your highest at your stock, you would want to sell that stock right now, and that would be WWE to make the big payday. But since AEW now has been stated they pay more than what WWE is, or rumored to pay more, and it's guaranteed with healthcare, then it makes no shocker that Kenny says, okay, I'm going to AEW since I'll have my freedom most likely, and I get paid more with healthcare. So it would make sense for Kenny to show up in AEW.
So
now.
Daniel Price says, "Nah, I don't think they bring Ryan in. He and Paige will tangle occasionally at indie shows and non-televised events. AEW wants to have an edge, but realize Ryan could alienate a lot of folks, which is something you touched on.
Well, Ryan and Paige made up, though. Made up in
Right.
air quotes,
Right.
but that's so there was a show 2 weekends ago where Ryan was getting beat down and Paige made the save, and they had they did a mock Hogan and Savage handshake, and then they got beat down and the Bucks made the save.
Daniel says, I wonder if Vince is going to tell Almas he can't hang out with Naito while he's in town Mania weekend. God damn it,
Who?
Andrade.
It's
No
Andrade. There's only another
Shh,
one
that's right.
name.
I know.
It's Andrade.
God damn it, Andrade. No tranquilo for you. If you do, I'll change your name to Andy. Well done, sir.
Oh, that's great.
Andrew Inatenko, he says, Omega's young enough that he could still go to WWE if AEW fails. True.
Yeah.
True.
Although not quite as young as people think.
But my question, I want to get into this because I think we've been diving into the same thing. But to kind of piggyback off of, our smart marks too smart for their own good. I don't know if you guys saw the report
That would be us.
with Rusev and Nakamura, the report that they were unhappy and asked for their release so they could go to AEW, which was reported all over as soon as that showed up on Twitter by a guy who had like 100+ followers, who himself later tweeted that he got a good laugh out of how stupid people are that they would believe a guy who has absolutely no intel into anything, and he literally just can put anything out there and people will run with it.
Well, my first question with that would be, well, you just had a match. Even though it was on the pre-show, you had a match on Sunday in Phoenix in a baseball stadium in front of 40,000 plus people. You were both featured prominently on SmackDown Live on Tuesday night, and now you're being put together in what could be a really intriguing tag team. Why are either of you asking for a release?
In a way, too.
I got the answer for you. They're not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just somebody exposing the marks for what they are.
Yeah.
And
Anyone who's not happy now is already going to AEW,
Yeah.
guys, just in case you didn't know.
Oh, and then
if somebody
If you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything.
listen,
and
if somebody ate some bad stuff mushrooms and has diarrhea, they're going to AEW because they
but-
are very unhappy with
but
the
what-
catering in WWE.
what I find funny is that someone would probably counter is like, yeah, but AEW pays more. I'm like, yeah, WCW paid more too, and you know what happened to them.
Yeah.
So.
It's ridiculous. It's nonsense.
But another thing too, to bring off the Rusev and Shinsuke thing, I actually like it. At first, I was a little annoyed because I know R-Truth's champion, and I'm just not really a big fan of the dance break or anything like that.
Oh God, I disagree. I love the dance
I think
break.
it's awesome.
No, it's just me. I personally just
But
don't
it's 'cause you
care
can't
for
dance.
it. But
You're Metal Matt. You don't do dancing. You mosh.
well, yeah, that's true. But still, the point is though is that like even though I don't really not a big fan of it, whatever, people liked it, fine. But
Should we do a 7-second mosh break on this show? Could we get a 7-second mosh break going?
I mean,
I don't know that we have enough room in here to do it on camera.
Oh,
though.
God.
Yeah. I mean, we have the beds for it, though. So, like, we got the music for it.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say was I like the fact that they are putting Nakamura and Rusev together for one thing. I think it'll help elevate both of them at the end of the day, especially a guy like Nakamura who kind of got shunned off to the side. Rusev had been over because he was doing the Rusev Day thing for a while. And I think it was smart of them to turn him heel because you don't want it to get stale. And it had been around for a couple of years.
But see, I think what's interesting about this is you have Rusev, as the one who gets in Nakamura's face and says, I will tag with you one time. Don't screw me over. How much you want to bet at the end of this? And I think it actually will have a little bit of run to it. But at the end of this, Nakamura's the one that comes out as the baby face and Rusev goes heel again.
Very likely. What I want to round this out by saying, because you mentioned it, what I'm not happy with the booking now is that very quickly we've already gone to We're immediately turning Rusev back heel. Mm-hmm. And Elias, it feels like he just turned face a month and a half ago.
Why is he heel
and
again?
now he's a heel.
That made no sense.
It made no sense, and I actually felt like he was getting traction as a face, which is something I didn't know if we believed would happen because he was such a hot heel. It almost puts a sting to me now on his heel persona.
Well, and if they're doing it for the reason that I think they're doing it, it's basically because of Road Dogg. Because if they're doing it to set up the thing with Jarrett,
it's short-sighted.
You could have, well, it is, but you could have had Jarrett come in as a heel.
Which is what he's done.
His entire career. But if you want the music angle, you have to have Road Dogg as a part of it. And if you have Road Dogg as a part of it, you can't have Road Dogg as the babyface and Jarrett as the heel together. And Road Dogg will never, ever, ever again be a heel in WWE. It just won't happen.
True. I mean,
people love him too much.
No, you're right. Ever since the DX thing, he's been loved since.
So the way that they could have done it was if they would have gone back to like lip syncing Jeff Jarrett and actually had him come in as a heel and not even acknowledge that Road Dogg was the one who sang the song and done it that way.
Yeah. I feel, though, I will say this. I do feel a little bad for Elias because, to me, what I would have done with him was I would have had him kind of streamlined for the Intercontinental title. And Bobby being a heel, a perfect guy to look at and say, okay, that's who Elias is going to beat at WrestleMania to become WWE Intercontinental Champion. It's a shame now that that's happening with Jarrett. It's not going to happen, which that to me is the biggest shame.
What's up, bro?
What's up, bro?
What's up, bro?
Hey, he's back.
The bro.
Honestly, what I think they did with Elias, I don't know what's going on with this. Pardon me. I've got my own thing over here. What I honestly think they did with Elias, back when they turned him babyface, they needed an additional babyface because of all the injuries. So what it was, okay, he's getting over. As a heel, we're going to turn him babyface, and we're going to see where this goes. And if it goes into, Jarrett came up, and now they're going to do a thing, okay, well, he's not a top guy at babyface, so we can afford to turn him back. But because if you notice, when they did turn him babyface, it was very sudden. It just came out of nowhere. It was with the Baron Corbin thing. So I just think it was just one of those things of, oh, my God, we only have one babyface because every other one dropped off the face of the planet.
Yeah.
Not only that, too, he was over. I mean, he was over because the fans still liked him at the end of the day. So it's like it makes sense that they would turn him babyface. I get the comfort zone of the heel, but naturally, if you're a smart booker, you say, okay, well, he's loved by the fans.
Yeah.
We got to turn him babyface.
Well,
now.
I think what's going to happen is he's going to wind up being the heel that stays so over that he's just going to wind up going right back to babyface at some point anyway.
Yeah.
Well, what do you got for hot tag?
Well, no, that's it. That's hot tag.
No,
guys.
that was hot tag.
All right.
So
we're gonna open the Kayfabe Vault.
the Kayfabe Vault. There we go.
Couple of quick events that did happen on this date. 19 years ago on Raw is War in 2000, Perry Saturn, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, and Chris Benoit,
The
Radicals, made their WWE debuts.
Huh.
On Raw after they attacked, who do we just talk about? Road Dogg and the New Age Outlaws, as well as Head Cheese, Al Snow, and Steve Blackman. Pull that name out of the hat. Also, 9 years ago, the Royal Rumble from the Phillips Arena in Atlanta, Georgia, Edge eliminates John Cena. Interesting point about this Rumble, though, was Edge in 7 minutes and 19 seconds in the ring was the shortest time in the ring for a Royal Rumble winner in the history of the Royal Rumble.
Interesting.
7 minutes and 19 seconds.
So what that means is that even guys who have come in at like 28, 29, 30 since then, they've stretched it out and made it more of a contest with those later numbers.
And then to round it out, happy birthday to the late El Gigante. Happy birthday to the late Crush and the man. Her birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday. If you didn't see her tweets, by the way, spectacular. Go and check out her Twitter.
What was it? Sasha was Saturday and she was yesterday?
Correct. Yeah, go check out Becky's tweets for her birthday. Her response to Vince McMahon, money. Guys, been fun being back. Really good time coming back. Feels like it's been forever.
Yeah.
We got stuff to talk about now, though.
We got a lot of stuff to talk
Yes,
about. The
we
road to
do.
WrestleMania is on. Thank you, Brodo. 1s and 2s over there. Killing it as usual. Maddie, give us a read.
All right, then. Well, Lazy Booking was brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy, located at Cherry Hill, Burlington, and Princeton. And you can find them at www.specializedphysicaltherapy.com. And also, Gibson Mayer LLC, your certified public accountants. You can give them a call at 215-369-3300. Tax season's here. Be ready, be prepared, and call Gibson Mayer.
Get your taxes done by February 15th. They'll give you 15% off.
There you go. From Chrome, Mike Mataraki, Madison Sudi. Guys, have a great week. We'll be back next week. Stay tuned. Hockey Happy Hour coming at you at the top of the hour. Until then, take care.